Hello everyone, welcome to Nilanjana's exclusive English lessons. So today I'm continuing with the next episode of the lesson Lawley Road. This is episode 2. People dropped their normal occupations and loitered around the statue, wondering how they could have tolerated it for so many years. When the people realized or heard that Sir Frederick Lawley, when they unearthed a lot of history about this man, they dropped their work and they just kept on loitering around the statue, and they kept on wondering that how could they have tolerated this statue for so many years. The gentleman seemed to smile derisively at the nation now. Derisively means like in a state of ridicule, with his arms locked behind and his sword dangling from his belt. The gentleman means the statue. The author is describing the statue, the way the statue appeared, and that's how the common people interpreted the expression on the statue, as if he's trying to ridicule everyone. There could be no doubt that he must have been the worst tyrant imaginable. So the people started imagining that he probably was the worst dictator. The true picture, with breeches and wig and white waistcoat and that hard, determined look of all that has been hatefully familiar in the British period of Indian history. The appearance is very similar to the British generals, how they looked. They had that hard, determined look in their eyes, and the way they used to wear a waistcoat, the way they used to wear a wig. So all that they imagined, and they thought that probably this man was also a very horrible tyrant or a dictator. They shuddered when they thought of the fate of their ancestors who had to bear the tyrannies of this man. They also started imagining that probably this man tortured, made the people of this locality suffer a lot. So probably their ancestors suffered a lot. So this man, this statue has to be demolished at any cost. Next, the municipality called for tenders. Now, what is a tender? This is a word related to business. Like when a company wants to procure some item, they want to buy some items, they usually float a tender. And when they float a tender, then the people, those who want to supply, they will give a quotation. So a tender is basically, you can say, like when someone wants to buy certain things, an organization or a company, they want to buy some things, they usually float a tender so that others can apply, and the price that suits the best, the items are procured from that organization. So the municipality called for tenders. A dozen contractors sent in their estimates. Estimate means the money, how much they would charge to do this job. The lowest standing at 50,000 rupees for removing the statue and carting it to the municipal office, where they were already worried about the housing of it. So the lowest price that was quoted by one of the contractors was 50,000 rupees, and he would charge this for removing the statue and then carrying it to the municipal office. Then they also started worrying that once it is carried, how they are going to place the statue where it should be kept. The chairman thought it over and told me, "Why don't you take it yourself? I will give you the statue free if you do not charge us anything for removing it." So the chairman told the talkative man over here that, "Why don't you take it? And I'm going to give you the statue free, even if you do not charge us anything for removing." I had thought till then that only my municipal friends were mad, but now I found I could be just as mad as they. I began to calculate the whole affair. I began to calculate the whole affair as a pure investment. Suppose it cost me 5,000 rupees to dislodge and move the statue. I knew the contractors were overestimating, and I sold it as metal for 6,000. About 3 tons of metal might fetch anything, or I could probably sell it to the British Museum or Westminster Abbey. I saw myself throwing up the upcountry paper job. So the talkative man over here, he started calculating the entire thing, and he thought that this was actually a good investment. So he starts thinking that if to dislodge, to remove the statue from its place, if it cost him 5,000 rupees and move the statue, and then if he could sell it as metal for 6,000, about 3 tons of metal might fetch anything. Or he can sell this statue to the British Museum or Westminster Abbey. And then he realized that if he could do such things, he can just ignore and discard the petty job that he was doing. So the scanty money that he was making, he thought that he can just, discard that and obviously look for something more lucrative. So all these ideas started floating in his mind. The council had no difficulty in passing a resolution permitting me to take the statue away. I made elaborate arrangements for the task. I borrowed money from my father in law, promising him a fantastic rate of interest. So, see how he lied to people because he wanted to carry out this task. For that, he needed some money, and he asked the money from his father in law and obviously did not disclose or reveal the plan, just said something else, maybe. And he also said that, oh, if you invest, then you get a good rate of interest. I recruited a team of 50 coolies to hack the pedestal. I stood over them like a slave driver and kept shouting instructions. They put down their implements at 6 in the evening and returned to their attack early next day. They were specially recruited from Kopal, where the men's limbs were hardened by generations of teak cutting in Mempi forest. So he had to employ some specific laborers to do the task, and for that he had to employ some coolies. Coolies are the laborers, manual laborers, and he had to give them instructions because obviously it was not an easy task and it was not the job of a single person. It had to be a collaborative effort of many workers because it was the most the strongest statue in the area. It was very sturdy, and the laborers which he recruited were specifically from a place called Kopal, where men were specialized in cutting wood. Teak is a kind of wood. So obviously they were more strong and they were also quite tough to do the job. We hacked for 10 days. No doubt we succeeded in chipping the pedestal here and there, but that was all. The statue showed no sign of moving. So you can imagine the statue was extremely solid, very sturdy. Even after 10 days of hacking, they just succeeded in chipping the pedestal. Chipping means just, making some marks in the pedestal here and there, but the statue showed no sign of moving. At this rate, I feared I might become bankrupt in a fortnight. Obviously, he's going to lose all the money because he had invested. I received permission from the district magistrate to acquire a few sticks of dynamite, cordoned off the area. The statue had to be blown up because it was too difficult to move the statue in any case. I brought down the knight from his pedestal without injuring any limb. Knight is who? The statue. Then it took me 3 days to reach the house with my booty. It was stretched out on a specially designed carriage drawn by several bullocks. The confusion brought about by my passage along Market Road, the crowd that followed uttering jokes, the incessant shouting and instructions I had to be giving, the blinding heat of the day, Sir Frederick's carriage coming to a halt at every inconvenient spot and angle, moving neither forwards nor backwards, holding up the traffic on all sides, and darkness coming on suddenly with the statue nowhere near my home. All this was a nightmare I wish to pass over. So here the author is trying to say that taking the statue down from the pedestal and carrying the statue to his home was an extremely arduous task, an extremely laborious task. It was an ordeal for the talkative man because there was traffic jam. How many days it took? It took 3 days. Okay, and the carriage was again specially designed, drawn by several bullocks. There was a lot of confusion in the road. There was a lot of joke that was uttered. People shouted, instructions had to be given, and in the heat of the day, carrying the statue was a very, very laborious, a hazardous task. Okay, so he thought that probably this was a nightmare and it should pass over. I mounted guard over him on the roadside at night. As he lay on his back staring at the stars, I felt sorry for him and said, well, this is what you get for being such a haughty imperialist. Haughty means proud. Imperialism means a system in which a country rules other countries, and obviously they have to use a lot of force and power to bring that country under the superior country's control. Okay, so the person who practices imperialism is an imperialist. So the author is trying to say that for being such an arrogant imperialist, obviously this is the price that you have to pay. It never pays. In due course, he was safely lodged in my small house. His head and shoulders were in my front hall, and the rest of him stretched out into the street through the doorway. It was an obliging community there at Kabir Lane, and nobody minded this obstruction. So imagine he took this huge statue to his home and he had to place it in that way. And it was indeed a small house. Okay, so the head and shoulders were in his front hall, and the rest was stretched out into the street through the door. The municipal council passed a resolution thanking me for my services. I wired this news to my paper, tacking onto it a 10-inch story about the statue. A week later, the chairman came to my house in a state of agitation. I seated him on the chest of the tyrant. So he had no place to make him sit, so he made this man sit on the chest of the statue. He said, I have bad news for you. I wish you had not sent up that news item about the statue. See these. He held out a sheaf of telegrams. So the talkative man had published an article on the statue in the paper, and after a week, the chairman came running to his home and said that after the news was published, he got a couple of telegrams. So, what were they? They were from every kind of historical society in India, all protesting against the removal of the statue. We had all been misled about Sir Frederick. All the present history pertained to a different Lawley of the time of Warren Hastings. This Frederick Lawley of the statue was a military governor who had settled down here after the mutiny. He cleared the jungles, almost built the town of Malgudi. He established there the first cooperative society for the whole of India and the first canal system by which thousands of acres of land were irrigated from the Sarayu, which had been dissipating itself till then. He established this, he established that, and he died in the great Sarayu floods while attempting to save the lives of the villagers living on its banks. He was the first Englishman to advise the British Parliament to involve more and more Indians in all Indian affairs. In one of his dispatches, he was said to have declared British must quit India someday for her own good. So now here comes the twist in the story that Sir Frederick Lawley was indeed a good general, and he was not the general which who actually they were referring to. They were actually being misled. Okay, it was a different Lawley of the time of Warren Hastings. This Lawley pertaining to the statue, this man was actually a good man who had settled in in the town of Malgudi after the mutiny. Mutiny means the Sepoy mutiny, and he had done a lot for the town. He had cleared the jungles, he had developed the town, and he had been quite popular with the people. Unfortunately, he died in the floods and that also when he was trying to save some villages. In one way, you can call him a philanthropist, somebody who does for the society. And he was indeed the first Englishman who persuaded the British Parliament to involve more Indians in all Indian affairs. Not only that, he had even said that the British must quit India because it is not good. So rather, you can say that he felt for the Indians and he was in no way an oppressor. So this was the news that was shared to the talkative man, and all these information was shared through some telegrams which the chairman had received after the news was published. And the telegrams had been sent by the historical societies. So there are many organizations, historical societies, who deal with history, who deal with the correct history, correct information. The chairman said the government have ordered us to reinstate the statue. Impossible, I cried. This is my statue and I will keep it. I like to collect statues of national heroes. This heroic sentiment impressed no one. Within a week, all the newspapers in the country were full of Sir Frederick Lawley. The public caught the enthusiasm. They paraded in front of my house, shouting slogans. They demanded the statue back. I offered to abandon it if the municipality at least paid my expenses in bringing it here. We know that he had invested a lot, right? He had invested, he had got the statue down from the pedestal, he had carried the statue to his home, which also was a very hazardous task. And for that, he had to invest a lot. Now, who's going to give him the money back now? So, and imagine the a situation like the common people, as we always see, they don't have any intelligence, they don't have common sense. That's an irony, because every now and then they're changing their opinion. Just a few weeks back, they thought that this man Frederick was a tyrant, and they thought that he must have tortured, oppressed all the ancestors. But now, the moment this kind of news was circulated in Malgudi, that no, that he was a good man, they again started demanding that the statue should be back. And they also paraded in front of the journalist house. So the public viewed me as their enemy. This man is trying to black market even a statue, they remarked. Stung by it, I wrote a placard and hung it on my door. Statue for sale, 2.5 tons of excellent metal, ideal gift for a patriotic friend. Offers above 10,000 will be considered. So now he wants to get the money back. So he put a placard on the door and he said, statue for sale. It infuriated them, means angered them, and made them want to kick me. But they had been brought up in a tradition of non-violence. It infuriated them and made them want to kick me. But they had been brought up in a tradition of non-violence. And so they picketed my house. They lay across my door in relays, holding a flag and shouting slogans. I had sent away my wife and children to the village in order to make room for the statue in my house, so this picketing did not bother me. They picketed my house. The word picketed means when a group of people gather around a particular place and they protest. So these people, they protested at his house. Now the man had already sent his wife and children to the village because he wanted to make room for the statue. So this picketing did not bother me. Only I had to use the back door a great deal. He couldn't move out from the front door because all the time these people used to sit and gather and they protested in that way. The municipality sent me a notice of prosecution under the Ancient Monuments Act, which I repudiated in suitable terms. We were getting into bewildering legalities, a battle of wits between me and the municipal lawyer. The only nuisance about it was that an abnormal quantity of correspondence developed and choked up an already congested household. So he had to enter into a legal dispute now. It was between him and the municipal lawyer. Okay. And what happened is it gave rise to many correspondences. Correspondence means a number of letters were exchanged, and it simply created a more congested household. The letters just kept on piling at his place, and it went on for a long time. I clung to my statue, secretly despairing how the matter was ever going to end. I longed to be able to stretch myself fully in my own house. 6 months later, relief came. The government demanded a report from the municipality on the question of the statue, and this together with other lapses on the part of the municipality, made them want to know why the existing council should not be dissolved and re elections ordered. I called on the chairman and said, "You will have to do something grand now. Why not acquire my house as a national trust?" So, what happened after 6 months? The government demanded a report from the municipality about the statue. Okay, and this together with other lapses on part of municipality, other lapses means other shortcomings, other drawbacks, made them want to know that why the existing council should not be dissolved. That means the municipal council was not efficient and they actually wanted re-elections. In the meantime, he called on the chairman and said, "See, if you want to save your post, you have to do something grand. So you can acquire my house as a national trust." "Why should I?" he asked. "Because Sir Frederick is there. You will never be able to cart him to his old place. It will be a waste of money, public money. Why not put him up where he is now? He has stayed in the other place too long. I am prepared to give you my house for a reasonable price." Finally, he had a plan and he wanted to sell his house as a national trust, like a national place where it will be preserved, like how we preserve monuments. Similarly, his house should be preserved as a national trust with the statue of Sir Frederick Lawley. So he said that, "Yes, I'm going to give you my house at a reasonable price. Okay, as it is, you will not be able to put the statue back to its original place. This is how you can at least save the statue." "But our funds don't permit it," he wailed. "I'm sure you have enough funds of your own. Why should you depend on the municipal funds? It will indeed be a grand gesture on your part, unique in India." I suggested he ought to relieve himself of some of his old blanket gains. After all, how much more you will have to spend if you have to fight another election? It appealed to him. So somewhere he was able to convince him, and we arrived at a figure. Figure is the amount that he is going to charge for his house. He was very happy when he saw in the papers a few days later, "The chairman of Malgudi municipality has been able to buy back as a present for the nation the statue of Sir Frederick Lawley. He proposed to install it in a newly acquired property, which is shortly to be converted into a park." This was the place of the talkative man. "The municipal council have resolved that Kabir Lane shall be changed to Lawley Road." So all the hue and cry that happened to remove the statue, change the name, finally, again, it comes back to 01. And the road also gets changed to once again to Lawley Road. And even the statue is preserved, obviously, in a different way. But finally, it's preserved. And the talkative man also was able to get back some of his money, probably with a little bit of amount of profit as well. The story also shows that how the authorities, especially the municipal authorities, they waste a lot of time in discussing and debating about meaningless things. Municipalities should actually invest their time and money in doing something for the people, in developing the place, right? But here in the story, we see that they are wasting their time as well as their money in doing a lot of useless, meaningless things instead of solving real issues. So, overall, the story is a satire, as I had already said. And it also, what is a satire? A satire is a story which exposes the drawbacks of the system, drawbacks of the society. And that is what we can see in the story written by R.K. Narayan. So I hope all of you have enjoyed it. The first episode is already there. If you have not yet listened to the first episode, please go and listen to the first episode. And obviously, if you have any questions, do write in the comments. Please share and subscribe to the channel and keep supporting. Thank you and have a beautiful day ahead.